Hanover Square Press and Harper Audio present Made Men, the Story of Goodfellas, by Glenn Kenny, performed by Stephen Graybill. A note before we begin. For a recipe for ziti with meat sauce, a Goodfellas timeline, notes, and more, don't forget to download the accompanying enhancement PDF from your audiobook provider, or go directly to harperaudio.hc.com/mademen. Treachery is beautiful if it makes us sing. Jean Genet, The Thief's Journal. Prologue. Martin Scorsese, December 1989. I ran into Paul Schrader in the hall the other day. He's finishing his movie. I said to him, "It figures I see you here. We're the only two guys who are going to work through Christmas. Everyone else is clearing out." Martin Scorsese was referring to the man who wrote the screenplay for his galvanizing 1976 movie Taxi Driver, with whom he'd subsequently worked on Raging Bull and The Last Temptation of Christ. Schrader himself started directing features in 1978, forging an idiosyncratic path with films that often mixed searching spirituality with sexuality and violence. But he never shook, or tried to shake, the association with Scorsese. The Raging Bull experience, which saw De Niro and Scorsese rewriting Schrader's script almost from scratch, had bruised Schrader's feelings somewhat, but the two men retained an affinity with and an affection for each other. More to the point, 15 years after they first worked together, they were still as consumed by filmmaking as they had been then. Schrader was finishing his disturbing Venice set The Comfort of Strangers, written by Harold Pinter from a novel by Ian McEwan. Scorsese was caught up in assembling a picture called Goodfellas. At this time, and for some time after its release, it was, as you'll see, rendered in print as Goodfellas, with a capital F. This changed over the years. No one to this day, to my knowledge, can pinpoint when it changed or why. Both pictures would see release in the fall of 1990. Scorsese mentioned this run-in to me before we ourselves got to work. He had set aside a couple of hours so we could start on an essay to which he would attach his byline. In 1989, I was working at a magazine called Video Review, which would be celebrating its 10th year of publication in 1990. That it had survived for 10 years as a consumer magazine was a testimony to a lot of things, and mainly to the fact that home video and home theater in the late 80s was a sufficiently hot topic to sustain a regular readership of a few 100,000. For the 10th anniversary issue, we were soliciting the opinions of various ostensible luminaries and visionaries on how home video had affected life and culture, and what effect it would have in the future. I should emphasize again that this was 1989. Home video meant VHS, and maybe a little bit of Laserdisc. The DVD, video streaming, oversized flat-screen TVs, critically acclaimed original programming on cable, the whole "is TV better than movies" debate, all of this was in the future. What seemed to me, and to everybody else, the distant future. Most of the predictions we would run were in the form of sound bites solicited in phone interviews. J.G. Ballard. I look forward to the day when specialty video producers, the equivalent of Sun Records and the like in the music business 20, 30 years ago, and the equivalent of small publishers in the book trade, really can begin to reach out to the public. Paula Abdul. The big movie musical will return to prominence in this decade as recording artists take the video music concept one step further. But for the keynote address, so to speak, I thought Martin Scorsese would be ideal. The filmmaker was also a well-known film lover.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?